back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. As you can see, it's kind of strange today. I got Josh with me. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Fed? How are you?
Chilling. It's actually funny. We've never been on camera together before.
No. Well, not for Watchuwant, yeah.
Not for Watchuwant. But anyway, today, I figured since we have our lead watch buyer here, we talk about A, value, value when it comes to watches, and B, kind of your philosophy as a watch lover, because you collect watches in your personal life, right?
Right, yeah, I'm obsessed, yeah.
Well, figure if you have to work here.
Yeah.
So, why don't we start with value props, right?
Okay.
I mean, part of your job is to buy watches, to get them in stock, people trade in and stuff. So how do you determine the value of a watch?
Oh, okay, so what do I look at?
Yeah, what do you look at?
Well, there's a few different things. So we start with the brand. We know that some brands are going to be holding more value than others, and that comes from, which I've talked about on the show with Tim, from control over distribution from the brands, right? So if a brand is just selling their watches willy-nilly, wholesaling them here and there, and with no real control over distribution or who sells them or at what discounts, that's definitely going to affect the resale value of the watch. So there are some brands, we don't have to talk about the ones that don't control, but we can talk about ones that do. So you have Patek, Rolex, Audemars right now is a brand that's putting a lot of emphasis in that. Like Journe, also brands who have a lot of control.
People all know the Rolex and Patek. It goes without saying. But what are some of the less common brands that are doing a good job with controlling their market?
Okay, so essentially everybody has a problem with this except Rolex and Patek. AP is definitely taking a lot of really good steps to help control distribution, and we're seeing that even right now. If we talk to our cousins up in Philadelphia, they'll tell you that even selling brand new APs is getting a little tougher just because they're limiting some of the production, which is good. It's a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
They don't have 90. You can't call and be like, "Do you have the blue dial Rolex?"
Right,
yeah, sure, you'll get it tomorrow.
Exactly, and they're focusing on selling things more through the boutique, which I can understand.
Yeah, sure.
If I was running a brand, I'd probably want to do that too. I guess the idea is sell less watches for more money. It's less work, doing less.
Keeps the brand
Exactly. The brand esteem is really, really important. And when we talk about these things, we always talk about really core models, because ladies' watches are always going to be, no matter what, you're going to have to discount a ladies' watch.
It doesn't count almost.
It doesn't count, exactly. So, and precious metal watches are also affected differently. We're talking about holding value. We're talking about stainless steel sport models for the most part, right? And, there is going to be some outliers here and there. Patek has a lot of outliers when it comes to that.
Journe does as well.
Well, I mean, the great thing about Journe is that, they don't really make any stainless steel watches except for one, which I really love, and we've talked about it before. And that watch holds a ton of value. But usually what happens is when you're talking about stainless steel sport models, they tend to be on the lower price range of the brand.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that hold the most value, because when you look at it from a spectrum, you can buy an Audemars Piguet for $500,000, or you can buy one for $20,000. So the fact that you're buying a watch for $20,000 from a brand that makes one for $500,000, that's going to increase the perceived value.
Absolutely, right? And it's all about perceived value, right?
Yeah, that's what everything. It's confidence, right?
Yeah.
Just like when you talk about the stock market, obviously more complex, a lot different than the watch market, but a lot of it comes down to buyer confidence. So watches brands that hold value that we're seeing besides Rolex and Patek, we're seeing AP holding some good value. We're seeing Journe, of course. I mean, it's a small manufacturer. They have super, super tight grip on distribution.
Oh, yeah, they're very few doors.
Very few doors. I mean, Govberg is one of them, one of the largest, and they respect the brand, and we're not going to do anything to mess that up. And that's the whole point, When a dealer looks at a brand and says, all right, well, this brand's going to make me money, so I don't want to do anything to mess this up. Okay,
yeah, sure.
I can make good margin on this. They're going to give me the watches that I need to sell at the right time and whatnot, and so I don't want to mess this up. So they're not going to go ahead and just discount, because when it comes down to it, there's an agreement between the brands and the dealers.
A gentleman's agreement.
Okay,
it's not technically legally binding.
Right, of course, but the agreement comes down to, look here, I'm going to allow you to sell these watches. Discounting is not really something that we want to be done, so please don't. But in the end, there's no way for the brands to really know how much the dealers are selling the watches for.
No, and all that happens if they do find out and they're upset about it. Next time when you call to get the chronometer blue, they'll be like, sorry, we're out of stock.
Yeah, or if they find out that you're like blatantly doing this, they say, sorry, you're no longer a dealer here. And that does happen.
Oh, of course it does.
Yeah. So, guys lose Rolex, guys lose Patek. Those can put you out of business. Those are bread and butter.
I mean, if a jeweler... listen, a jeweler loses Journe, it's a bad day.
Oh,
but a jeweler loses Rolex,
that's the end of your career.
It's almost closing time.
Yeah, it's death.
Depending what you do, right?
Right, exactly. And that's why, and the fact is that that's well known in the industry, that if you get a Rolex account, don't mess that up, because that's going to bring you, it's going to bring you eyeballs, it's going to bring you sales, it's going to bring you esteem.
Oh, yeah. And listen, my job previous to this with Piaget was to open accounts and close accounts. And to get a Rolex account, I mean, that's really tough.
Well, people are beating down Rolex's door to get those accounts. Piaget, while make quality watches, maybe not so much.
No, they weren't beating down my door. But once again, even for a brand like Piaget, which, let's face it, is not the most in-demand thing out there, we still had a criteria.
Of course.
Right? Like, where are they located? What other brands do they sell? How liquid are they? So while I've been turned, while I've said, listen, guys, let's open these doors, and Piaget have been like, Federico, they don't qualify.
Sure.
For Rolex, I mean, to qualify for a Rolex account, it's really tough.
Yeah, and you have to follow all the rules all the time, which, there's nobody is messing around with Rolex, and if they do, they're gonna pay the price for it. So regards, coming back to our original point, brands that hold value, it starts with. It starts less about the watches itself and more about the business of the watch, right?
Brand control.
Brand control, right. So, and I have these conversations with customers all the time. They say, the customer has a Breguet. This thing's so much better than a Rolex. So what, how could a Rolex be worth more? And I go, sir, it has nothing to do with the quality of the actual watch. Literally nothing.
Zero. Almost zero.
Almost zero. Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, if you're churning out crap and you have good control of distribution, no one's going to want to buy it.
Sure, but all these brands, even the ones that don't hold value very well, they make a good product.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're all Swiss watches. There's a certain standard, right? So, but when you talk about like a brand like Breguet, which makes unbelievable watches.
One of my favorites, by the way.
I mean, they make great movements, highly finished watches, great quality, but they don't tend to hold a lot of value because it's marketing and distribution. So, not everyone knows Breguet. Everyone knows Rolex. I don't care who you are, your grandmother knows Rolex.
Yeah, of course they do.
Right, so, but that goes into it. That's really important. So, when you're looking to buy your first, Swiss watch, Rolex always comes up first. If you don't buy it, you're at least considering it.
Or at the very least, it enters your mind, right?
Exactly.
At the very least.
So, but then there's other brands who, so we have a couple criteria for holding value. It's going to be control over distribution and marketing, right? So here's another brand that marketing is really good, Breitling. A lot of people know Breitling.
Sure.
A lot of people, layman people, non-watch people, know Breitling. But their control over distribution is not the greatest.
Well, yeah, they got a little sloppy for a while, and they opened too many doors, and it takes a while to clean that up. Because brands have successfully cleaned that up. AP,
right
as
now,
you said.
Absolutely. And brands, absolutely. Brands, if you take the right step, just like any business, and it's not an easy business.
No, of course not.
When you're...
There's competition all over the place.
Well, there's huge amounts of competition. The standards are different here and there, and when it comes down to it, especially if you're a publicly owned company or you're owned by a larger group, top line and bottom line are the most important things. Whereas for Journe, of course, he needs to make money. That brand needs to make. They're not gonna keep moving forward unless they're making money, and believe me, they are. But top line and bottom line is maybe not on the top of the list of priorities.
They're more flexible,
right?
Where at the end of the day, once again, I work for Richemont. All they cared about at the end of the month, Federico, this was your goal. Did you hit it?
Well, of course. And if I'm a sales manager for any business, that's all I really care about.
Yeah.
I'm going to let someone else worry about distribution or someone else worry about marketing or brand perception. I'm worried about driving a number. And that's what happens when you get, in my opinion, a little too large and you lose focus of the and in the end, listen, these brands aren't losing money.
No,
they start losing money, they're going to go out of business, right? So even a brand like Breitling, which makes a ton of watches, sells a ton of watches, they make good watches, some better than others, of course, but in regards to holding value across the board, even with the stainless steel sport models, because that's really all they make, and that's really the other exception. So if the brand, stainless steel sport models are going to hold the most value, and even for Breitling, that's still the case, but if all you make is stainless steel sport models,
then they're going to take a beating too.
right, exactly, because that's all that's available. So yeah, and readditioning pieces, so it would make every 2 or 3 years upgrading the, just like car models, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole scheme with car models that they're going to every 3 or 4 years release
Add
a new
feature, a facelift,
or a new body model. So our new body.
a new look.
Right. So the Honda Civic of 2005 looks nothing like the Honda Civic of 2017.
Yeah.
Right. But they're both Honda Civics, so obviously it's just going to be devalued as you keep updating.
Well, let me ask another question. I'm sure that our viewers want to know, and this is more for Josh Thanos, the watch collector,
Okay.
and less, the lead watch buyer.
Sure.
You love watches, you collect watches.
I do,
Now,
yeah.
be honest.
Sure.
How much, when you're picking your next watch or you're looking for your next buy, how much does value retention play into that factor? And, what do you think it should be?
Sure. So for me, unfortunately, because of what I do for a living, and really my work is life for me, right? So I do this 24/7. This is what I like to do. I love dealing in markets and buying and selling, and the fact that I got into watches allowed me to do it essentially at 24/7.
Sure.
Right? There's no business hours for watches, right?
No, you pick up your phone, guys. He picks up his phone at midnight if someone calls.
Don't call me midnight, but if you do, I'll have to pick up. So, but yeah,
guys,
so
don't call him midnight. Actually,
it depends. So it depends on what you want to buy. So.
Spoken like a true salesman.
Yeah, of course. So value retention is the first thing I think of. But in the end, I'm always looking at, all right, what am I getting for my dollars and cents? And I have an idea of, all right, well, if I spend this much money, I am willing to lose this much in order to get out of it over time based on, number one, my budget. What can I afford for this watch that ultimately cost me? So if I'm buying a watch that's a $10,000 retail, right, and I can buy it for $6,000, knowing that if I sell it, worst case scenario, I sell it for $3,000, I think in my head the equation is, all right, $10,000 watch, it took me $6,000 to get it. In the end, it's only going to cost me $3,000, so I got to own a $10,000 watch for $3,000. That's the equation I do. And that might be I got to own a $15,000 watch for $6,000. You just got to figure out what can you afford ultimately in your budget, and when you buy it, calculate what do you think it's gonna
appreciate or depreciate.
It's always
depreciate.
It's always depreciate, right? So how much is it going to depreciate, and how much can you afford without becoming a professional seller yourself? So on the low end, what's the worst? Leave town money is what we talk about.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's interesting for you to say that because I can see how you'd come to that, being that this is your life and your business.
Sure.
You also own a couple of pretty funky watches, which I'm sure you bought at a great price, which aren't particularly known to hold value, but that I love. Like, you own a really cool Parallel.
Oh, yeah. So I have a Parallel Tourbillon. Turbine.
Tourbillon.
Definitely don't have a Tourbillon.
So I know when you bought that Parallel, you weren't thinking... You couldn't have been thinking in value.
No. My collection started with actually this watch. This is the first Swiss watch I ever purchased.
PAM 380.
Right, PAM 380. You have as well.
I own one as well.
It's a good watch. I was actually looking for a PAM 000 when this came up, and I tried it on my wrist. I go, it's a little bit different. If you know the history of Panerai, it's actually more geared towards...
The most accurate. Right?
Well, of course, yeah. This is the first Rolex / Panerai dive watches look like this. So this is the first watch I purchased, and it was less about value for me and more about just getting something that I would enjoy and wear every day, and so that's what that was. And honestly, I probably overpaid for this watch. It's worth about half of what I paid for it now. Good news is I didn't pay $20,000 for it.
No, fair enough.
Right now the retail has actually dropped since I purchased it too, which is a little upsetting. This used to be a $5,000, $4,900 retail. It's $42,000 now.
Really?
It is.
I didn't know that.
Creates a great value play because this Panerai probably sells closest as a pre-owned watch, closest to its retail value out of any of the Panerais.
Okay.
Again, it's only $4,000, which
it's relative, right?
Right, it's all relative. So, but when I first started collecting, it was all right. What do I want? Okay, so I bought this watch. I ended up buying a Breitling. I had another Panerai, and then once I started getting a few watches, then it just became like opportunistic, right? So so the Parallel, someone brought it in, it wasn't in a great condition, didn't have box and papers, made an offer that I thought was fair for the situation. It's probably a little bit under the market value. I bought the watch. Don't think I could sell it, honestly. I cut the strap. it's not the greatest value.
You tried to sell it to me 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, jokingly, I'm keeping that watch because it's fun.
It is. I love it.
Yeah, but I paid less than $1,000 for the watch, so I'm okay. And that's what it comes down to.
It's opportunities, right? Because you get a lot of opportunities in your line of work.
Right. So if it's a watch that maybe our company's not going to purchase, and I get the okay from management, I'll make an offer and say, hey, this is a watch I'm going to purchase for myself. If there's ever an opportunity to sell it, I'll give you guys first dibs. Obviously do it the right way, and that's how I purchase. So now I have. I think I have 13 or 15 watches. I have to count them again. But I got a bunch of watches.
And you got a lot of cool left field stuff, like Anonimo.
So I have an Anonimo High Dive. I have Shinola. I have the Parallel. What else? I have weird stuff that sometimes I just surprise myself. I forgot that I had it.
You had to open the glove box in your car.
Right. So I do keep the Anonymous sits in my glove box. But yeah. So for me now, value and is so when I first started, it was what do I want. Then it progressed into, okay, well, now I got a few things that I like. Let me think more about value. And now I'm getting to the point where, all right, now instead of just buying things that I like or figuring, okay, what's the best value, I'm thinking about watches that I can wear for occasion. So my next watch is gonna be a Rolex, so I have my Omega. I wanted to get something that's on a bracelet, that it's going to be a little bit slimmer, that I could wear, essentially anytime. A more versatile watch, right? So most of my watches are a bit polarizing. So like this watch, though this one actually got me, so my 380 got me through a lot of things. I mean, I can put it on a leather strap and wear it to work or, out to dinner. I can put it on like a nice crocodile. Well, that's the third one. So I put it on a nice crocodile, and now it's a dress watch. And I could put it on a rubber Panerai strap and wear it fishing, which I do. Okay. So this one became pretty versatile, but I literally have to make changes to the watch. So I have an Oris that was my first bracelet watch.
The Aquas.
The Aquas, right? That was my first bracelet watch. Then I have my Omega, which is a bracelet watch also, but they're both very sporty. So now I'm thinking, all right, well, I have a collection. Let me look at this. When will I wear this? When will I wear that? Okay, so now I'm thinking, let me get a Rolex. I need somewhat of a more versatile bracelet watch, and that's where I'm at in my point.
Something high end that you could also wear to a beautiful dinner with your wife.
Right, exactly. Yeah, or I could throw a rubber B strap and wear it fishing too.
Yeah, sure.
So I got to be able to wear my watches fishing. It's very important. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that there's different. You go through cycles with collecting.
Absolutely.
I see this. I'm essentially a beginner collector compared to a lot of my clients. Right? A lot of my clients have been collecting for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Wow. For me, I'm into it about 5 years.
Okay.
So I'm going through a lot of the things that a lot of my clients are going through, and I think it's important for me to, in order to understand the needs and wants of my clients,
to go through it yourself.
To go through it myself, right? So because a lot of this is feeling. So if I've never had that feeling of wanting to trade a watch, or like what that feels like, buying a watch for one price and selling it for less than that, those things are really, really important for me to really have a true understanding. I have to do it. Good news is I really love it too.
Well, listen, my favorite watch in my collection, my IWC Ingenieur Laureus, is the one watch that I'm going to lose the most money on when it comes time to sell it. Because I just loved it so much. I'm like,
just buy it.
I want it.
Whatever it costs.
Just swipe the card.
Sure.
So it is what it is. But anyway,
there's intrinsic value, and then you get, as long as you realize that number one, the watch holding value is not the end all be all.
No, it's not, and that's what I wanted us to kind of segue into. I think it's important, but I do agree, at least personally, and I think you do too, right? You just said it. It's not the end all be all.
No, you have to buy what you like. So I have customers will call me and say, what's the best watch to buy? And it's like such a open-ended question. I go, all right, well, what do you care about? Do you want something that you're going to wear every day that you're going to love? Do you want something you're only speculating on it? You're going to buy it because it's either going to go up in value, or it's going to cost you $200 or $300 to end up owning in the end. Because those, in my opinion, are the hardest watches to deal with, because if I buy, say, like a Rolex Batman, right? It's a great watch. A lot of people love the watch, right? But if you buy that watch knowing that you only wear, say I only wear Panerais, but I want to buy something that holds value, so I go out and buy a Batman. If you're never going to wear it,
what's the point?
Unless you're making substantial money on it, what was the reason to go through that whole practice of buying the watch and then going ahead and selling? Because selling watches is stressful. Okay,
sure.
We do it professionally. I have every tool at my disposal, and it's still a stressful thing to do. right?
Oh, yeah.
So imagine if you're a banker or you're a lawyer or you're a chef or something along those lines, and now you're going to go ahead and try to sell these on the private market. And if you are well versed on internet forums or eBay, it makes things a little bit easier. But still, there's risks and there's stress involved. And unless you really love that kind of stuff, which I don't mind it. I buy watches on eBay. I've sold a watch on eBay or two. It's just not. It's not terrible for me.
But it's that stress, and it shouldn't be terrible for me either. I've been doing this my entire career, but it's that exact stress which has caused me to never sell a watch I've ever bought.
Yeah, well,
I just don't want to go through it. I'm like, screw it. I'll wear it. I'll enjoy it.
Not my target market. Then.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm your worst client.
Yeah, you and Tim, man. You just buy and keep.
Anyway, guys, and on that bombshell, thank you so much for sticking around for another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help us out. And check out our Instagram. Link in the description below. Of course, this is Josh. If you have any watch questions, buy, sell, trade, we will leave his number up on the screen. And as you know, he's widely available.
Oh, yeah. I got my cell on me all the time.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.
See ya.